Good morning to you there in the United States. Good evening to you here in Israel. Mr. Alon Schuster, the Israeli Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development. Dr. Scott Hutchins, Deputy Under Secretary for Research, Education and Economics in the United States. His Excellency Mr. David Friedman, the American Ambassador to Israel. Mr. Nahum Itzkovich, Director General of the Israeli Ministry of Agriculture, Board's BARD of Directors, 40 Years Review Committee, Dr. Edo Halutz, former Executive Director of BARD, who had led the fund for 20 years, many of BARD's friends in Israel and abroad, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Yoram Kapulnik, and I am the Executive Director of BARD. After 40 years of intensive and meaningful contributions, BARD was set to look back and to evaluate its impact. The BARD 40 years review process you will be hearing today came to its end right before the COVID-19 outbreak. We were hoping to hold this event in Israel and to meet you all in person. Even though I'm excited, we are holding this session online. 40 years ago, BARD's founding fathers were Dr. Yoash Ve'adia, who served as the Vice President of the Hebrew University and Head of ARO, and Dr. T.W. Edminster, who served as the Administrator of ARS, the Agricultural Research Service, in the USDA. These two men had the insight and the foresight to fulfill a vision of initiative program to promote excellent joint U.S. Israel Agricultural R&D. They directed the establishment of a mission-oriented fund, namely BARD, to support strategic and applied agricultural research relevant to both countries in the field of livestock, crop, pest control, soil, water, and air resources, and many more. By doing so, scientists can jointly confront issues that are critical for agricultural productivity and feed the growing nation. Have come a long way since then. Their persistent hard work over 4 decades has paid off. The fund has earned its reputation and the trust of the scientific community in US and Israel, and indeed all over the world. BARD's professional and thorough evaluation work relies heavily on support and goodwill of the member of scientific community all over the world. Scientists from Israel and the United States are asked to serve on BARD panels and the well-known Technical Advisory Committee. These people are at the heart of our work. We could not do our work without them. Thank you all. I also would like to thank our board of directors, our chairman, Professor Abed Gera, the Director of Plant Protection Services, and acting chief scientist at the Ministry of Agriculture in Israel, Dr. Shavanda Jacob Young, Administrator, Agricultural Research Service, and acting chief scientist of the USDA, Professor Richard Linton, Dean, College of Life Sciences, North Carolina State University, Professor Catherine Burr, Dean of the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, Cornell University, and Mr. Gilad Katsav from the Israeli Ministry of Finance. Thank you all for your devotion, commitment, and guidance. I would like to take this opportunity and to welcome our new board member, Dr. Michal Levy. She serves as the Senior Deputy Director General for Agricultural Innovation at the Israeli Ministry of Agriculture. This nomination is still on its way, but we are pleased to welcome her soon in her new role. Finally, I would like to thank the ones who are responsible for BARD's day-to-day work. These are the members of a small elite team responsible for operations, evaluations, communications, and financial management of the fund. Thank you, BARD team, for it is a pleasure to work with you. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Mr. Alon Schuster. the Israeli Minister for Agriculture and Rural Development. Although only recently appointed, he is a big believer in the Israeli agriculture for many years now. As a member of a kibbutz, he lives and breathes Israeli agriculture. Mr. Schuster is a public servant. He served numerous public roles on local, regional, and national levels. He has the confidence that we can always find ways to advance our agriculture and make it even smarter. Please, Mr. Schuster.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Kapulnik. I'm happy to join you all today. Dr. Scott H. Hutchins, USDA Deputy Undersecretary, Dr. Shavonda Jacobs-Young, the USDA ARS Administrator, U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mr. David Friedman, distinguished guests. As a native of Israel's rural areas, as an educator, as a member of a kibbutz, and of course, as a proud Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, I have come to learn about and love Israeli agriculture. Its role in the lives of Israelis is critical, not only to those who depend on growing and selling produce for their livelihood, but to all of us as a society. Though Israel is a relatively small country, it deals with many large-scale challenges. Necessity being the mother of innovation, we have found ways to overcome our difficulties and take the lead in agricultural innovation. Dealing with water shortage, dry and saline soil, extreme heat, we have revolutionized how plants are watered, how to reuse our wastewater, and to raise animals and crops that adapt to harsh climate. Our partnership with American scientists in agricultural research is fostered by BARD. As you may know, BARD is more than just a funding mechanism. It not only awards scholarships and research grants, but it also leverages opportunities for scientists to learn from one another. We have the pressing responsibility to ensure food security. We must do our best to promise the availability and the access to food anytime at an affordable price. At the same time, we must increase food safety and avoid food waste. These are big challenges, especially under the Israeli semi-arid condition. Last week, I met with Professor Kapulnik. He gave me a copy of BARD's 40-year report. I was immensely impressed with BARD's achievements. We need this program to continue to flourish. BARD research projects play an influential role. They help pave the way for innovation. BARD supports our scientists by giving them the means to analyze and explore new plant varieties, new technological solutions, and train our next generation of experts. George Bernard Shaw once said that if you have an apple and I have an apple and we exchange apples, then you and I will still each have one apple. But if you have an idea and I have an idea and we exchange these ideas, then each of us will have two ideas. BARD programs make it possible for us to work side by side with world-renowned experts and bring ideas to practicality. BARD's success is a testament to the importance of the U.S. Israel partnership. This partnership benefits contemporary agricultural practice and lays the foundation for the agricultural needs of generations to come. I would like to congratulate the BARD Fund for its 40 years of achievements and look forward to many more years of fruitful collaboration between Israel and the United States as we work together to address agricultural challenges. We look forward to meet in person and hope it will be safe soon.
Thank you very much.
To all
No, he's not finished. He's not
You hear
finished.
me?
to meet all here in Israel. Thank you all.
Yes.
Okay, sorry for that. I didn't realize that it would happen to us. I would like to introduce Dr. Scott Hutchins, who is the Deputy Undersecretary for Research, Education, and Economics in the USDA. Dr. Hutchins is responsible for carrying out the USDA strategy to its highest performance. We are fortunate to have him with us today. Dr. Hutchins joined the USDA after retiring from a 32-year career in the private sector, where he served in a wide range of leadership roles, focused on agricultural innovation, product development, and portfolio management. Please, Mr. Hutchins.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And greetings. Thank you for the kind introductions, Dr. Pakolnik. It's really an honor to join this event. Minister Schuster, U.S. Ambassador Friedman, members of the U.S. Israel Binational Agricultural Research and Development Fund Board, and distinguished friends and guests joining us virtually from all over the world. We're here today to recognize the efforts of the U.S. Israel Binational Agricultural Research and Development Fund, known as BARD, and it is truly inspiring to reflect on the successes of the BARD initiative. As we all know, in the early 1970s, nearly 50 years ago, the United States and the state of Israel began to formalize research cooperation in the fields of science, industry, and agriculture. BARD is one of three funds established in the 1970s. The first was the Binational Science Foundation, known as BSF, which was formed in 1972, and the second, the Binational Industry Research and Development Foundation, known as BIRD, was founded in 1976. And the one we gather today to recognize the success of, BARD, was formed in 1977. So we have some history and some experience, and some excellent history and experience. BARD was established with the objective to promote and support agricultural research and development activities which are of mutual benefit to the United States and Israel. And over the years, BARD has advanced, fostered, and funded cutting-edge research carried out jointly by scientists of both countries in order to facilitate groundbreaking advances in agricultural research. As the assessment highlights, BARD has been highly successful, incredibly successful. Indeed, over the last 40 years, BARD has invested over $1 billion and over 1,300 awards that led to the adoption of over 200 new agricultural practices. This truly illustrates the outcome value of international agricultural research cooperation that is truly mutually beneficial to both countries and indeed to the world. On a personal note, I've seen the results, the reach, and the prowess of AgTech in Israel firsthand. In 2018, I joined Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb and his private public sector delegation to Israel in a mission to explore opportunities for AgTech collaborations. It was clear to all of us on that trip just how strong the ag innovation ecosystem is in Israel, especially digital and automation technologies for water management and plant health monitoring. Truly amazing developments. Ambassador Friedman also graciously hosted us for a reception at his residence during the trip. And I believe, Mr. Ambassador, it might have been one of the very last events in Tel Aviv prior to the historic relocation of the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. The U.S. also is fully invested in agritech, as is Israel. So the partnership synergizes our joint efforts to help feed a growing population. And we must sustainably intensify agriculture production with the technological advances of modern agriculture and environmental stewardship. Indeed, sustainable agriculture of the future will be high-tech agriculture. In fact, USDA has recently established a national ag innovation agenda focused deliberately on using technology to increase production by 40% while reducing environmental footprint by half by 2050. With this ag innovation agenda, we recognize publicly that agricultural research is essential to advancing our food systems and to protecting our natural resources for our nation. and indeed the world. I'm proud to be here with the BARD board to acknowledge and thank researchers who are working hard on finding ways to solve problems and cope with ongoing challenges, but more importantly, to create new opportunities for agriculture. Remember, all security begins and ends with food security. We're also pleased to have recently entered into a science and technology agreement between our two governments, further illustrating our commitment to continue our close cooperation. The fruits of today's research projects will help provide the food and nutrition for our citizens, including our children and grandchildren and generations beyond that, just as it has done since the formation in 1977. International partnerships and programs like BARD are a way for us to accelerate innovation, to support real-time needs, and to make a real difference. The United States and the State of Israel have some of the world's top scientists and track records of innovation. BARD gives us the best of both worlds, focused on agriculture. I wish BARD continued years and decades of scientific contributions and success. Agriculture is a noble profession, and it deserves our very best efforts in innovation. BARD makes this commitment visible to all. Thank you again, and congratulations to BARD for realizing the vision established so many decades ago.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hutchins, for your kind words. And without further ado, I would like to introduce the American ambassador to Israel, His Excellency, Mr. David Friedman. He has been a very busy person recently, as he played an important role in the historic Abraham Accord peace agreement signed between Israel and the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and several, and maybe with Sudan just recently. Science and technology and food security are important topics covered by this peace agreement. And we are very happy and much appreciate your initiative. Please, Mr. Friedman.
Executive Director Yoram Kapolnik, Agriculture Minister Alon Schuster, Director General Dr. Nachum Yiskovich, Department of Agriculture Deputy Undersecretary for Research Dr. Scott Hutchins, Acting USDA Chief Scientist Dr. Shavonda Jacobs-Young, and so many other distinguished guests who are joining this event to celebrate 40 years of successful collaboration in the Binational Agriculture Research and Development Fund. In the early 1970s, nearly 50 years ago, the United States of America and the State of Israel began to formalize academic research and technological cooperation in the fields of science, industry, and agriculture. We established 3 binational foundations with large endowments and world-class trustees: the Binational Agricultural Research and Development Fund, known as BARD, formed in 1977. Since then, U.S. Israel science and technology partnerships, many of them fostered by BARD, have encouraged economic growth, advanced education, job creation, and the development of new, groundbreaking technologies. Just as we have seen tremendous regional progress on the Abraham Accords, we are also seeing the tangible benefits of President Trump's policies for bilateral cooperation with Israel. 2 weeks ago, we signed a protocol in Judea and Samaria to reaffirm our commitment to BARD and to expand cooperation to even more Israeli partners, including in the Golan Heights and Judea and Samaria, who will be eligible to receive funding for scientific collaboration in a wide variety of fields. As confirmed by the 40-year review impact assessment, BARD continues to be a tremendous success. BARD has funded over 1,300 total projects and has invested over $310 million over the last 4 decades. For every dollar invested in the program, an estimated $12 are returned to the U.S. and Israeli economies. What will be our agricultural needs 5, 10, or even 50 years down the road? How will we feed our nations in the future? We are counting on our scientists and programs like BARD to spot the trends and sow seeds of progress. I sincerely hope that in the years to come, we further our cooperation to plant, nurture, grow, and harvest the fruits of our high-quality research to the benefit of both of our nations and the world as a whole. Congratulations to BARD for reaching this milestone, and may your next 40 years be even more successful.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Friedman. And now it's a pleasure to introduce Dr. Shavanda Jacob-Young, which provides national leadership, vision, guidance, and direction as Administrator for Agricultural Research Service, ARS. She also served as the Acting Chief Scientist of the USDA ARS. ARS is one of the world's premier agricultural scientific organization with 1,800 scientists at 90 laboratories throughout the United States. Shavanda has been a member of BARD Board of Directors since 2014 and has served as a chairperson of the board. Her insight and ideas had helped fulfill our mission. Please, Dr. Jacob-Young.
Thank you. Greetings, and thank you all for being with us today. I'd especially like to welcome the Israeli Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Alan Schuster, Dr. Scott Hutchins, my colleague and boss, Deputy Undersecretary, USDA Research, Education, and Economics Mission, the U.S. Ambassador, David Freeman, representatives of the academic institutions, and members of the U.S. Israeli Chamber of Commerce, and so many others. It is my great pleasure to join BARD Executive Director Yoram Kaputnik and my fellow BARD Board of Directors members to present the BARD 40-Year Review Research Impact Assessment. I wish we could be together in person to celebrate BARD's incredible research achievements, but like scientists are well known to do, we adapt, we innovate. So thank you to all of our colleagues at BARD, our hosts, who have made this virtual meeting possible today. This is a great day, an opportunity to stop and recognize the impact of our country's major ag research partnership effort. In my role as the USDA's Acting Chief Scientist and ARS Administrator, I personally know how a novel question, a feasible study plan, and a strong support system all build the foundation for excellence in agricultural research. At USDA, we aim to use the entire portfolio of scientific tools at our disposal to solve problems and deliver scientific solutions to producers and consumers. And we know that our Israeli colleagues share the same goal. We also know it's our joint commitment to research integrity, quality, and impact that fuels so many successful collaborations through BARD. In a few moments, we get to hear more about BARD's impressive collaborative history and the tangible, innovative solutions it has produced for some of the world's most pressing agricultural challenges. As we reflect on the impact the BARD program has had over the last 40 years, let us also remember the value that stems from partnerships like this international cooperation. International partnerships and programs like BARD pull together great minds and maximize resources. This is an extensive overlap. And there is an extensive overlap between the challenges facing U.S. and Israeli farmers, but together we can face them head on. Our challenges are so great that none of us can meet them alone. We are stronger together. Before I conclude, I want to thank the members of the BARD 40-Year Review Steering Committee and Zenovar for their efforts in completing this assessment. The results will be very useful to us as we chart the path forward for BARD. In ARS, we have a saying, we have a proud past and a promising future. This is true for our valuable partnership with Israel and BARD as well. I look forward to many more fruitful collaborations and successes from BARD over the next 40 years. So thank you, and I turn things back over to Yoram to introduce our next speaker.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Jacob-Young. Shavanda, it was a pleasure to hear the kind words. And at this point, I would like to move on to the next part, or the second part of our event, and to handle this part to Professor Ada Rafaeli. Ada Rafaeli is a distinguished professor from the Agricultural Research Organization, the Vulcani Center. She has served in several national and international committees. She was the president of the Entomology Society of Israel. She is on several editorial boards and served as an Associate Director of Academic Affairs and International Cooperation at the ARO, the Vulcani Center. At this opportunity, I would like to thank her for dedicated work, ensuring the members of the steering committee got all information they needed, keeping everyone on the path with the process, supporting and helping to facilitate a long and important process. In the name of BARD, I would like to thank you for all you have done for BARD. Please, Ada.
Thank you. At the culmination of 40 years of activity, BARD's Board of Directors appointed a steering committee to oversee an external review commission to assess past and present impacts on binational funding of American and Israeli agriculture research. The steering committee was set up to help navigate through the review process that was undertaken by an external review committee. The members of the steering committee included the chairman, Professor Robert Gary from Tulane University, U.S. members, Professor Stephen Duke, USDA University of Mississippi, and Professor James Giovannoni, USDA Cornell University, and Israeli members, Professor Jonathan Gershoni from Tel Aviv University, and Professor Orly Reiner from the Weizmann Institute of Science. Professor Richard Linton, Dean of the College of Life Sciences, North Carolina State University, and the then acting chairman of BARD's boards of directors, was the advisor for the steering committee. My part was to coordinate between the steering committee and the external review committee. The external review committee had the interesting and challenging task of assessing BARD's impact. The committee was led by the consulting company based in Israel, Zenavar, and was led by economist Mr. Shaul Tzaban with the help of scientific analyst Dr. Tamar Moisa with the help of other team members from Zenavar. Special consultants in agricultural economic analysis were recruited to assist in the evaluation process. Professor Kenneth Foster, Department of Agricultural Economics from Purdue University, and the late Professor Wallace Tyler, Professor of Agricultural Economics, Purdue University. I would like to ask the chairman of the steering committee, Professor Robert Gary, to give us a brief overview of the BARD 40-year review process, its objectives, and the main findings. Please.
Thank you, Ada. Thank you, Ada. Well, first, let me say it was a real pleasure to lead the BARD 40-year scientific review, a high honor. And many of you may know that I'm not an ag scientist. I'm actually a virologist. And just let me make a little comment as a virologist that science will lead us out of this pandemic. It must lead us out. And one of the reasons I was picked to lead this review was because I do know how to run a scientific meeting, and I know a little bit about the scientific process. So if I could have the next slide, please. So our objective was to assess and quantify BARD's cumulative impact in terms of academic outcomes, as well as the resulting agricultural applications. So we looked at the impact of BARD on agricultural practice, on academic impact, on social and environmental impact, and last but not least, on economic impact. So how was it done? How was that scientific review done? The evaluation was conducted by two complementary pathways. First, we did a survey of 640 principal investigators from BARD grants all over the 40 years. And then we did case studies. We spent a lot of time evaluating grants that had been given by BARD, and we picked 20 of those to do an in-depth analysis. So our main findings: BARD certainly has had a powerful impact. And one of the main conclusions is this partnership has been crucial for Israeli and American science. It's had a powerful impact on academic excellence, and that's one of the major focuses of BARD. And then it's also had an amazing social and environmental impact. So our main findings: innovation. Over 200 new agricultural practices directly as a result of BARD funding. 40 commercial engagements. 100 patent series and breeding rights licenses, truly incredible. Capacity building, and this really gets to some of the heart of what BARD has accomplished over the years. 3,300 students and research associates have been involved in BARD research projects, and that includes 250 postdocs and 54 workshops, which are critical for getting out the scientific messages. And then the economic impact. So an excellent return on investment, at least $16 gained for every dollar spent. And this is really incredible in terms of the return on investment for science. We'd like to see 10 to 1 maybe, and that would be incredible, but 16 to 1 is truly remarkable for what BARD has accomplished over the years. So conclusions, recommendations. Investing in BARD is investing in our future. And I do look forward to seeing the great progress that BARD and its scientists will be making over the next 40 years as well.
Thank you, Bob.
My pleasure.
Out of the 20 case studies that were included in the 40-year review, the review committee deliberated and after approval from the steering committee, chose to recognize 9 projects that were notably groundbreaking and having outstanding impact within 3 different but equally important categories, including social and the environmental impact, economic impact, and pioneering promising research. I will attempt to summarize the main aims and outcomes of these outstanding projects in the next few slides. Although the principal investigators are responsible for the project's success, we should bear in mind that each and every research project includes several people who contribute to the successful outcome of the project. As our time is limited, I won't be able to mention all the different collaborators. Let's look at the first category, the social environmental impact. The first project of this category is the Power Wheat, Genes for Improvement of Modern Wheat. This is a collaboration between University of California and Haifa University. The main aim here was to identify genes from wild Emmer wheat that could be transferred or introgressed to commercial wheat varieties and thereby increase the nutritional properties and resistance to disease. The outcome of this project resulted in breeding programs that led to high protein wheat varieties and disease-resistant varieties without loss of yield. These varieties are shared worldwide. These qualities have no doubt contributed tremendously to society and the environment by adding nutritional value to an essential commodity, as well as protecting the environment by reducing chemical treatments to crops. The net present value of BARD's investment is estimated at $118 million. The second project in this category is the tilapia lake virus, a threat to the global tilapia industry, a collaboration between Columbia University and Tel Aviv University. The project aimed at identifying an unknown causal agent of a disease in tilapia causing mortality. The project successfully characterized a new virus, tilapia lake virus, as a disease agent and identified a successful diagnostic assay for detection of the disease. This project concerns food security of millions of people dependent on tilapia farming in developing countries. The net present value of BARD's investment is estimated at $38 million. And the third of this category, third project, is trichoderma, a potent fungus as biological control agent. This is a collaboration between Cornell University and the Hebrew University. The project concerns the control of pathogenic fungi in field crops by the use of an endophytic fungus, trichoderma. Trichoderma induces multiple benefits to plants such as root growth promotion, resistance to abiotic stress, and increased nitrogen use efficiency. The project outcomes were the successful establishment of commercial companies producing trichoderma for biological control of root disease in greenhouses and vegetable crops. Net present value of BARD's investment is estimated to $647 million. In the second category, economic impact, the first project of this category is the full life cycle hatchery-based aquaculture. This is a collaboration between MIT, Brooklyn College, Israel Oceanographic Research Institute, and the Weizmann Institute of Science. The aim of this project was to establish tools to control fish reproductive processes in captivity by artificial induction of maturation and spawning in farmed fish. The project successfully provided the global aquaculture industry with a tool to induce fish to spawn in captivity, enabling the rapid development of novel fish farming. This technique is also applied for gene rescue and population amplification of threatened and endangered species, contributing also to an impact on society and the environment. The net present value of BARD's investment is estimated at $12 billion. The second project of this category is the BRICS quantitative trait loci of processing tomatoes. This is a collaborative project between Cornell University and the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. The aim was to discover traits in wild tomatoes that are associated with soluble solid content and can be transferred to commercial processing cultivars, thus enabling a higher utilization of tomato for tomato paste production. This pioneer research was led to successful commercial cultivars enhanced by a single trait of wild tomato, whilst maintaining the cultivar's vigor. The techniques discovered here have been adopted to numerous plant species for introducing desirable traits in breeding programs. This project is exemplary in the demonstration of a phenomenal synergy between U.S. and Israeli partners. The net present value of BARD's investment is estimated $261 million. The third project of this category is the genetic improvement of dairy herd. This is a collaborative project between the ARO Volcani Center and the University of Illinois, the USDA ARS, and the University of Georgia. The aim was to identify genetic markers that affect traits of economic importance in dairy cattle, such as milk quality, and to introduce this genetic information into cattle breeding selection programs. The outcomes of this project include increased rates of genetic improvements over 30 major traits included in dairy cattle selection. The net present value of BARD's investment is estimated at $1.135 billion. In the third category, pioneering and promising projects, the first project is the integrated robotic system for stress detection in greenhouses, a collaborative project between Purdue University, the University of Maryland, and the ARO Volcani Center. The aim was to develop a robotic system for early detection of stresses in the greenhouse environment. The outcome was the determination of narrow spectral bands to identify crop disease and the development of a robotic system to replace manual detection of several crop diseases. This is an exceptionally promising project and is ongoing. The second project in this category is improving irrigation efficiency, the Gossam cotton model, a collaboration between the Hebrew University and the USDA ARS. This project aimed at evaluating effects of drought stress on photosynthesis in cotton, and to incorporate this information into a dynamic simulation model to aid in cotton crop irrigation management. The Gossam model was used successfully in commercial farms in 1984 until 2008 as a decision support system. This project was at that time a cutting edge and pioneering project. Today, the model is used for testing hypotheses and providing policymakers with economic and policy decisions by assessing yields, prediction of effects of climate change, and more. The net present value of BARD's investment is estimated at $813 million. And the third project in this category is the improved feed efficiency in chickens. This is a collaboration between the USDA ARS and the ARO. The aim was to develop a model to determine the optimal daily feed intake so as to improve feed efficiency in broiler production. The outcome was the development of an economically optimal feeding regime using an algorithm named ChickOpt. This model has been incorporated into a commercial software package and is implemented in over 130 countries. The net present value of BARD's investment is estimated at $788 million. We are unable to meet today face-to-face with the researchers acknowledged above in these 9 outstanding projects, but we did get a chance to virtually meet with 2 of them who were happy to share their knowledge and insights about the BARD-funded research projects. So we shall see 2 videos, one on the power wheat, genes for improvement of modern wheat, and the second one will be on full life cycle hatchery-based aquaculture.
Well, tell me what you have for breakfast this morning. Probably you have a bagel, you like to eat your pizza, you like to eat your pasta. Wheat is so important because it provides roughly 1/5 of all the calories and all the protein that people consume every day. Every small improvement that you can make in wheat can have an important impact in the life of a lot of people. Our objective is very simple. We want better wheats in everything. We want better quality, we want better nutrition, we want less allergenicity of wheat for people that have allergies to wheat. We want more resistance to pathogens, we want more efficient use of the resources that we use. But it's a fight that we continue to fight. The pathogens continue to evolve and we need to develop new resistance. So we are permanently fighting pathogens that also want to eat the wheat. It makes you resilient. And in these times of climate change, resilience is important. So you need to be able to respond to changes fast. And without research, it's difficult to do it. These new varieties that we develop have 10 times more dietary fiber. And as you know, dietary fiber is good for your health, but sometimes it's nicer to eat a white bread. So this will allow us to make a bread that is not a whole wheat and still will have a lot of fiber. To create these varieties, we have to do a lot of work first. First, we need to create a way to detect those mutations. So we recently been working for the 5 last years in a technology that allows us to sequence all the genes of wheat and to find all the mutations that we have in our mutant populations. And we have created a database that contains 10 million mutations in 90,000 genes of wheat. So we can find the mutations on any gene that we want. I think that what keeps me up is the sense that your work is meaningful, that you are doing something that will be helpful for a lot of people, that you're making something that with your life that will help other human beings. It's a fantastic job.
We are talking about 20 years project, more than 20 years. I met George Dubkowski first in 1997 in a conference in France, and then we decided to work together, and we applied for BARD. Is that during plant domestication, then the evolution, we lost the diversity, plant genetic diversity. In order to develop new wheat cultivars, we need new sources of genetic diversity. And what we did is went back to the wild relatives of wheat. One of them is wild emmer wheat, which is present, we can find it in nature in Israel, and look for genes and alleles that were lost during domestication. We discovered that the same line which gave the high grain protein was also resistant to stripe rust. Stripe rust is a very important disease of wheat, causing huge damages. Now it is one of the most important diseases of wheat, causing a damage of $1 billion per year, and we are talking only about losses of 5 million tons of grains. BARD provided the framework for these studies. Without the support of BARD, we wouldn't be able to conduct this research. This is exchange. We are exchanging ideas. We are exchanging materials, genetic materials. We are exchanging technologies, and the students which are going back and forth deliver transfer the technologies and the knowledge from one to another.
Hi, I'm providing this small video to say thanks to BARD for their 40-year celebration. BARD has been essential for the development of my laboratory. We have been working for more than 15 years with the Zion Fahima, the University of Haifa, and that has been a very productive collaboration. We published more than 15 papers together, and we clone important agronomic genes like the genes to increase grain protein content in wheat, and two new genes for resistance to the new virulent races of striped rust that are now widely used worldwide in agriculture. So I think that it has been an important source of funding for our lab, and to establish collaborations with Israel, and to bring a lot of good scientists and train some brilliant young scientists. I would like to highlight Asaf Distelfeld, that was in my lab, now is the director of the Institute of Evolution in Haifa University. And now we're training a new one that is filming this video, Gilad Gabay, that hopefully will be as good as the previous one. So thank you very much, BARD, for all the support. And I think that is a fantastic program that you have, and promotes very integrated collaboration between our countries to advance agriculture. Thank you.
So in the 1960s into the 70s, the world realized that we are emptying our oceans and depleting our fishery species much faster than expected, mainly due to overfishing. We wanted to feed the growing world population with this healthy fish protein. But this is not surprising, as fish have been the last hunt and gather animal crop. Obviously, you do not go to the wild to harvest your chicken or beef, but you do so for fish. So it became clear that this practice of hunt and gather must change, and fish must be produced like any other animal crop through agriculture. What enabled us to develop the technology, to understand the level of the hormonal failure. So why are those fish not spawning in captivity? It kind of narrows down to one brain hormone that we have identified, and the BARD enabled us to do that, and then to synthesize it and to develop the gene-rich analogs and to incorporate those into those polymer-based biodegradable delivery system in a couple of fish species, 2-3 fish species that are of commercial importance. So sea bream to start with, sea bass, so the Denise, the Lavra, as well as salmon, Atlantic salmon, and some other salmon species. This is what the BARD enabled us to do, the research that enabled the technology that made it possible for the industry, the aquaculture industry of these species, to develop in a way that is reliable, reproducible, and cost-effective. That it is all about collaborations. First and foremost, across the Atlantic, U.S. Israel, which made things for us very efficient, but also within Israel. So my first BARD, I was a young, junior scientist back then in 1985. And the collaboration involved scientists at the Weizmann Institute of Technology, because the research focused on identifying hormones, developing synthetic versions of it, and so on. So I needed to collaborate with sophisticated hormonal labs in the Weizmann Institute of Sciences, as well as in Brooklyn College. And this was our colleague in the first BARD. The second part, well, I then looked for a way for sustained delivery of the superactive analog that we developed during the first part. Now we needed to make sure that those peptides are going to be present in the fish circulation for a long time and be bioactive for a long time. We needed to incorporate them into polymer-based delivery systems. So I then went to the guru of biomedical delivery systems, Professor Bob Langer at the MIT. He developed all kinds of drug delivery system for biomedical research, and with him we collaborated in implementing and optimizing the same biomedical delivery system, but for aquaculture, but for fish. So I mean, without that collaboration across the Atlantic between Eilat and the MIT, this technology would not have developed. And then it enabled us also to develop this technology for fish that are of commercial importance, aquaculture importance, for both the US and Israel. Funding or the support I received from the BARD led to many collaborations, additional collaborations outside of the BARD across the world. So it enabled us to develop this technology. Many other collaborators, both from industry as well as from academia, were interested in potentially implementing it and optimizing it for other fish species. So this led to hundreds of collaborations since then around the world, focusing on hatchery technologies and closing the life cycle, inducing spawning in fish that are of importance to aquaculture and feeding our people around the world.
I have the pleasure of introducing Professor Richard Linton. Professor Richard Linton, advisor to the steering committee, served as professor of food safety and chair of the Department of Food Science and Technology at Ohio State University. From 2000 and 2010, he served as a director of the Center for Food Safety Engineering, which focuses on the development of rapid detection technologies for biological and chemical foodborne hazards. I would like to invite Professor Richard Linton to sum up today's meeting and give us his concluding remarks and his insights concerning the whole review process and BARD's role for the future. Please, Rich.
Well, thank you, and good morning, America, and good evening, Israel. It's my pleasure to be with you here today. And though I wish, and all of us wish, that this celebratory event could have taken place in person, I think we've certainly made the best of this virtual experience. It was an honor and a privilege for me to be asked to serve on the BARD board several years ago. But deans are very busy people. We only say yes to serving on these kinds of activities if we recognize that the impact is strong, and also if we can identify ways in which we can contribute more to the program's success. And I had been following the progress of BARD for many years and was convinced that this was one of the most inspiring and innovative international collaborations that was making very strong global impacts. When we think about the grand global challenges of society, I saw BARD as a difference maker to finding many of the solutions that we need. I wanted to be a part of it, and I'm glad that I am. BARD has had many great achievements over the last 40 years, and it has been my privilege to serve on the BARD Board of Directors as BARD continues to seek and advance agriculture innovation. I've also visited Israel several times, and I found myself inspired time and again by new people and new approaches. BARD is like no other organization, and I have found that its dedication to both the promotion and the advancement of agriculture research to be one of a kind. One of the things that makes BARD unique is through its thorough evaluation process. The process was carefully constructed in order to serve the interest of both nations. Each country gets to evaluate the proposed research projects collectively in accordance with the local priorities from their country. This system ensures that support is the most innovative, but also the most collaborative. Through this process, BARD can achieve the truly ambitious goal of supporting and facilitating the U.S. Israeli partnership in agriculture, research, development, and education. Over the years, the funding provided by BARD's program has helped many young scientists take their first steps in building their career. It has also facilitated and fostered long-standing partnerships, which have yielded some of the most impressive results that we see and we use today. In order to achieve high-quality results in agricultural research, we must have the stamina. The road from which the research lab to the field and to the table can be long and tedious. The road ahead may be very rocky at times as well, but our strong partnerships gives our two agriculture research communities the support to keep up and even accelerate the incredibly valuable work needed to feed a growing world population. Recently, as chairman of the board, I had the opportunity to serve as the advisor to the steering committee for the BARD 40-year review process. It was fascinating to learn and take a deep dive into the different aspects of research that BARD has funded over the last 40 years. I wanted to know what the return on investment was for both countries. Investing in BARD was and continues to be a worthwhile investment. And as the report indicates, the return on investment is very strong. Thanks again to all that have joined with us today as we continue to seek innovative solutions for agriculture. I'm eager to continue and strengthen our partnership and increase the value to our supporters. I wish the BARD team much success. Your success is our goal because your success will help deliver solutions and feed our world. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Linton, for your kind words. I want to thank you all again for joining us today and to thank again the members of the steering committee, the evaluation committee, and all teams that were involved in this process. I hope you enjoyed learning and zooming in on BARD and the impact of our program. I would like to mention that the full report is available online if you wish to read in detail.